One is we can call the browser. Second thing is we can integrate the browser. Third thing is we can display the HTML files. And fourth thing is we can provide communication between the HTML user interface components and Android activity. So these four operations we can perform by using the webview component. Call the browser, integrate the browser, display HTML files, and communication between HTML and Android activity. These four operations we can perform. We already done the first two things. We already done how to call the browser and how to integrate the browser. These two steps we already completed, right? So now we have to discuss this, how to display the HTML files and how can you provide a communication with the HTML user interface and Android activity. So these two steps we have to discuss now. See, if you want to display HTML files, if you want to display, you can place the HTML file, you can place in the assets folder. In your project, assets folder, you can file, you have to place an HTML file, you have to place in this assets folder, file name.html. So if you want to display this HTML file, if you want to display this HTML file, if you want to display, webview object.load URL is a method. Webview object.load URL is a method. Specify the URL address here. Whatever the web page you want to display, let's specify the URL address here. Webview.load URL of specify the URL of that particular web page. Okay. So this is a syntax. Whatever the HTML file you want to play, place the HTML file in the assets folder and webview.load URL specify that particular URL address of that particular web page. Okay, let's see here. Okay, so here let's open the last class project. This is a last class project we created. WebView test is a project name. WebView test. So we already done these operations. We already done the first two operations. How can you display the web pages and how can you integrate the web pages? How can you integrate in our application? Let's see the design here. We select the design. If we select, design, if we select, here we taken on text box we taken. Then after that we taken a search button we taken, and whatever the URL user is given here. When user clicks the search button, we are displaying that web page. We are displaying on the WebView component. We are displaying. So we already done these things. We already done. But now we have not written the logic for this HTML button. Whenever user clicks the HTML button, my requirement is I want to display the HTML page. I want to display here. So this is HTML button, right? I already configured the click event already configured for this HTML button. Android on click is equals to test, and we configured the ID we configured for this one. What is the ID we configured? HTML is the ID we configured. HTML is the ID we configured for this, and whenever user clicks the button, it's going to call the test method. So in this test method, and we had to write the logic now here. Whatever the HTML file you wants to display, place the HTML file in the assets folder. See, in your project, right click on this app, you can find the option called new. Right click on app, you can find the option called what? New. In this new option, you can find the option called assets. So select this new, and after this select the folder here, app, new, folder. In this folder select what? Assets folder. In this folder select what? Assets folder. Okay, just click on this finish button. That's it. Click on the finish button. So now in our current project, it is created a folder. It is created with the name called assets is a folder name. Now in our project, it is created a folder. It is created with the name what? Assets is a folder name. Now in this assets folder, we had to create one HTML file. We had to create. Let's right click on this assets folder, create a new HTML file. Right click on assets, new, and here select HTML file here. So just take a normal file. My requirement is I want to create a simple login page. I want to create assets, specify the file name login.html. Right click on assets folder, specify the file name. What is the file name? Login.html is a file name. Login.html is a file name. Okay, so here let's create an HTML file. I'm specifying HTML by HTML is a root tag. HTML by HTML is a root tag. In this HTML, specify an header tag. Then after that, I want to create the body tag. I want to create. Specify what is the background color for this. Just I'm creating an HTML file. I'm creating. Okay. I'm creating an HTML file. I'm creating HTML file. I'm creating. Background color is red and text color is what? White. I'm creating a simple table. I'm creating. Of course, I hope you are aware of HTML. Okay. I'm creating a simple HTML file. Well, 4 rows are required. See, this is the most important one. The third step and fourth step, displaying the HTML files and providing communication between HTML and Android activity. Okay, it's most important. Okay, because as per my assumption, in future maybe the user interface is going to become HTML for Android. Login form. Then after that, so I want to create 2 columns. I want to create TD. Okay. First, I want to specify enter name. I want to create a text box. I want to create input type is equals to text. Give a name for this. Name is equals to, I'm giving a name as uname is a name. Input type is equals to text. Name is equals to what? Uname is a name. Okay. Next, enter password. Enter type is equals to password. Give a name for this. That's better rather than giving a name. We'll give ID. Will give ID is equals to uname is ID and ID is equals to password is ID we configured. ID we configured as uname and password. Okay. Next we create one row. Input type is equals to, so I want to create a button. I want to create. input type is equals to button. Input type is equals to what? Button. Text is equals to, specify what is the text you want to display. Value is equals to login. Okay, like this, just create a simple HTML file. Create what? A simple HTML file. Okay, now in our Android code, this is a HTML file I created. In the assets folder, I placed a HTML file I placed called login.html is a file name. Now in the activity class, and the main activity.java, okay, so here, so we have to specify webview.loadURL is a method. Webview.loadURL is a method. Specify the URL of that particular website. So here we have to specify file, we have to specify file 3 forward slashes Android underscore asset file. After that we have to specify what? 3 forward slashes we have to specify file 3 forward slashes Android underscore asset slash specify the file name dot html login.html. What is a file name? Login.html is a file name. Okay, so we'll test the application. Let's see whether it is displaying that particular page or not. See, this is the syntax. If you want to display HTML file, if you want to display, which is available in the assets folder, file Android 3 forward slashes, it's mandatory. Android underscore asset slash file name. What are the HTML file you want to display? Let's run the application. First launch the emulator. Slowly.
Sir, could you show the HTML file path?
I sent you in chat box also. I sent you. Okay. So emulator is started. Emulator is started now. So now we'll run the application. Will run the emulator. I want to run the application. It's loading the project. Okay. So now the app is installed, and once if you click on this HTML button, so if you click on the HTML button, if you click, okay, it is displayed the HTML page. It is displayed. Login form. Okay, specify the name. What is the password? Okay. So we create a HTML file. We created. We created what? A HTML file we created. Okay. So now here, my requirement is when user clicks this login button, for example, a username and password, we design this user interface, we design in the HTML, we design the user interface, right? So we design the user interface, we design in the HTML, we design the user interface. For example, here, user is given a name, a password. Okay. So given a username and password are given here, but my requirement is when user clicks the login button, I want to get this data, I want to get into my activity, I want to get. See, these UI components are not created in the XML file. If these UI components are created in the XML file, we know that how to get these components into our Java code by using findViewById method. By using findViewById method, we will get that particular component we'll get into our activity class we'll get. By using that findViewById method, we'll get that particular UI component we'll get into our activity class we will get. But here, these components are not created in the activity XML. These components are created in the HTML file. These components are created in HTML file. So now we'll see the fourth one. That is, how can we transfer the data from HTML user interface to your Android activity? Okay, so that's what we'll discuss, the fourth one. By using JavaScript interface, because if you want to configure any events, if you want to configure for the HTML UI components, I'll repeat once again. If you want to configure any events, if you want to configure for HTML UI components, we had to configure the events in JavaScript. Okay, I'll repeat once again. If you want to configure any events like click event, item selected event, if you want to configure any events, if you want to configure for the HTML UI components, we had to write the logic in JavaScript. We had to write the logic. Okay, so now here in Android, by using JavaScript interface, we can provide the communication between. By using JavaScript interface, we can provide the communication between. We can provide the communication between the HTML user interface. We can provide the communication between HTML user interface and Android activity. We can provide the communication between HTML user interface and Android activity. Okay. So for this, what we have to do is webview.add JavaScript interface is a method. Webview.add JavaScript interface is a method. Add JavaScript interface. So we had to specify two parameters. We had to specify for this method, add JavaScript interface method. First parameter is nothing but class object. First parameter we had to specify what? Class object we had to specify in the first parameter. Second parameter we had to specify interface name. Second parameter we had to specify what? Interface name we had to specify in the second parameter. First parameter is a class object. Second parameter is what? Interface name is a second parameter. First parameter is a class object. Second parameter is what? Interface name. Okay, so these are the two parameters you have to specify: class object and interface name. If any one of the configured event is happen, sorry. These are the two parameters you have to specify: class object and interface name. By using the second parameter, only what is second parameter here? Interface name. Try to understand this statement. The whole statement you can understand by using this single statement, whatever we are writing here. By using the second parameter, what is the second parameter? Interface name. By using the second parameter, we can communicate with the specified class. By using the second parameter, we can communicate with the specified class. Methods and variables from JavaScript. By using the second parameter, meaning what are the interface name you are specifying in the second parameter. By using the second parameter, we can communicate with the specified class, meaning what are the class you specified in the first parameter. we can communicate with the specified class, methods, and variables from JavaScript. Okay, so now let's see here. First, if you want to configure, if you want to get the data, if you want to get from the HTML user interface in your activity class, what you will do is, for this WebView component, the Oncreate method, for the WebView component, WebView dot, there is a method called add JavaScript interface is a method. A WebView dot add JavaScript interface is a method. We have to specify two parameters. We have to specify. First parameter is a class object. First parameter is what? Class object. Second parameter is the interface name. Class object. Second parameter is what? Interface name. I am specifying the class object as this. I am specifying the class object as what? This. I specified the class object. Second parameter is the interface name. Second parameter is what? Interface name is the second parameter. You can give any name, you can give as interface name. I'm specifying as my interface. Specifying the name as what? My interface name. My interface is a name we given. Okay. First parameter is this, I mean the current class object. Second parameter is my interface. Just read once again the statement. By using the second parameter, that is interface name. By using the second parameter, that is interface name, we can communicate with the specified class, methods, and variables from JavaScript. So now what we have to do is, we have to write the JavaScript logic we have to write here. In our HTML code, login.html, first we have to write the JavaScript logic we have to write. See, if you want to understand this statement, if you want to understand, you require a knowledge on JavaScript also. I mean, just a basic knowledge like how to configure the click event for a button in JavaScript and how to get the data from a UI components by using the JavaScript in HTML. Okay, I'll explain you. Now here in the HTML, we created a login button. We created what? A login button we created, right? If you want to configure the click event, if you want to configure for this login HTML button, there is an attribute called onClick is the attribute. What is the attribute name? OnClick is the attribute. Specify the method name here. I am specifying the method name as login is a method name. What is the method name we specified? Login is the method name we specified. So whenever user clicks the login button, it will create a method. It will create in the, meaning it's a function name. OnClick is equals to, we have to specify the function name we have to specify. OnClick is equals to, what is the function name we specified? Function name we specified as login is a function name. Login is a function name. Where we had to create this function? In our JavaScript. In the HTML header tag, we had to create one JavaScript function we had to create. First specify script, language is equals to JavaScript. Script, language is equals to what? JavaScript. In this script, we had to create one function we had to create. We had to create what? One function we had to create. What is the function name? Login is a function. I mean, we specified here, same like how we configured the onClick method in our Android activity. In the same way, we had to configure here. OnClick is equals to login is a function name. So we had to create this function. We had to create in the header tag. In the header tag script, we had to create a function called login is a function. In this login function, we had to get these two elements. We had to get, meaning this username and password. These two elements we had to get into this script. We had to get into this function. We had to get these two elements. We had to get. So how you'll get, document dot, there is a method called get element by ID is a method. Get element by ID is a method. We had to specify the ID of that particular component. Which component you want to get into Java code. One is I want to get uname, I want to get into my Java code. Second thing is I want to get password, I want to get into my Java code. One is username I want to get into my Java code. Second thing is what? I want to get password I want to get into my Java code. Okay. If you want to get the value from the particular UI component, now by using these statements, we got the UI components we got. But we required the value we required. We required what? Value we required. So that's why called dot value. Call what? Dot value. So you will get the value of that particular component. Now here, what kind of component you will get? Var name. Because in case of JavaScript, we are having only one data type, that is var. In case of JavaScript, we are having only one data type, that is nothing but what? Var is a data type. Var document.getElement by ID of password. So var name and password we got here. Okay. So now what we have to do is these values, meaning whatever the name and password we got, whatever the name and password we received here, these values I want to send to Android activity I want to send. Because we written this logic written in the HTML, JavaScript written the logic. But our requirement is I want to send these values I want to send these values, this username and password, I want to send these values I want to send to the activity I want to send these two values, this name and password. Okay. So for this we have to use this one. See how to send those values. Add JavaScript interface, class object and interface name. By using the second parameter, we can communicate with the specified class, methods and variables from JavaScript. Now we are in JavaScript. So we create a button we created, we configured the click event we configured. Whenever user clicks that HTML button, it is going to call this login function is going to call. Now from this login function, see here, webview.add JavaScript interface, I specified, meaning the current class object. In this class, I'm creating one method I'm creating what? One method I'm creating. Public void display MSG is a method. Public void, what is the method name? Display MSG is a method. Public void display MSG is a method. Okay. So which is taking two parameters as input. String name is one thing, password. I created a method called display MSG is a method. Display MSG is a method which is taking the two parameters as input. One is the name and second thing is what? Password. So now in this method, in this display MSG method, I want to display these two details, name and password. These two details I want to display in a toast message I want to display. So toast is a class and make text is a method. Toast is a class and make text is a method. In this method, first I want to specify the context. So get application context. Second parameter is a message. What is the message you want to display? So name and password. Name. Just I'm displaying whatever the data I received from the HTML. Just I create a method I created called display MSG, which is taking two parameters, name and password. Both are the string parameters. So those two values I'm displaying in a toast message. I'm displaying get application context, name, password, and the last thing is nothing but duration, length underscore long, and finally call dot show is the method. I'm displaying that name and password. I'm displaying in a toast message. I'm displaying those two details. Okay, it's a method in the activity class. In the current activity class, I created method I created in the activity class display MSG. Now what we will do is this display MSG method, whatever you created in the activity class, this method call from the JavaScript. This method call from JavaScript. But while you are calling, what you will do, while you are calling this method, display MSG method, what we will do is the second parameter, whatever we specified, my interface. By using this second parameter, we can call the specified methods. So for example, what is the method name we created? Display MSG is the method. My interface dot, or interface name dot, display MSG is a method which is taking the two parameters as input. One is name, second thing is what? Password. Name and password. That's it. My interface dot, meaning by using this statement, what in the activity class, it's going to call the display MSG method. It's going to call this display MSG method is going to call, which is taking the two parameters name and password as the input. We are displaying those details we are displaying in a toast, but still it is showing error in the activity class. Wherever you configure that add JavaScript interface, here it is showing error. It is showing it's nothing but for which method you wants to call from JavaScript. Which method you wants to call from JavaScript? Which method you want to call from? Which method you want to call from JavaScript? For that method, we had to add the following annotation. We had to add the following annotation. We had to add. Which method you want to call from JavaScript? For that method, we had to add the following annotation. So that's nothing but at JavaScript interface is the annotation. At JavaScript interface is the annotation. We had to add this annotation. We had to add on top of that particular method. Which method you want to call from JavaScript? Okay. So now here we want to call this method. This display MSG method we want to call from JavaScript. We want to call this method. So on top of this method, on top of this display MSG method, simply what you will do is just add this annotation at JavaScript interface. On top of this method, display MSG method, just add the annotation that is nothing but at JavaScript interface. On top of this display MSG method, just add the annotation at JavaScript interface. Okay. So run the application. We'll see. So click on this HTML button. So HTML page is displayed. Specify the name and password. Okay. So we create HTML page we created, and we given the data also we given. And once if you click on this HTML, once if you click on this login button, we will display that those two details. See, now we got the toast message we got. This name and password, whatever we given, so those details we got as a toast message. Meaning where we written this logic for displaying the toast message? We written in the activity class we written. And where you design this user interface, where you design? In the HTML we design the user interface. Meaning we are sending the data from HTML to Android activity, we are sending the data. Meaning if you want to design the user interface, if you want to design, XML is not only the option. XML is not only the option. Even if you want, you can create the user interface in HTML also, you can create the user interface. But the interface between that HTML file and your Java file is nothing but a webview component is the interface between your HTML and a activity. Okay. Let me know if you have any queries in this communication HTML to Android activity, because it's most important. Recently, I attended one interview at Verizon. So they asked about this one, like how to provide a communication between HTML and Android activity. Just give me a second.
Hello?
Hello, just give me a minute, I'll come back. Ah, hello, yes, Sonita, tell me.
How does the
Sorry, I didn't get you.
log here?
Your voice is breaking, Anita. Just type in the chat box.
The log
Only one character we are able to hear.
login method.
Login method. Just type in chat box. Next, we'll discuss a concept called what? Storage methods concept we'll discuss. First, we'll discuss shared preferences. We'll discuss shared preferences. And next, we'll discuss SQLite database. We'll discuss shared preferences, SQLite database. And the third thing is nothing but files. We can maintain the data in files. You can maintain the data. Files means again, you can maintain the data either in XML file. You can maintain the data, or you can maintain the data in JSON. You can maintain the data. Shared preferences, SQLite database, and you can maintain the data in files. You can maintain the data. These are the three storage methods in Android. Okay. But this files concept we'll discuss in our advanced Android. We'll discuss whenever we start advanced Android. In our advanced Android, the first topic we'll discuss this one only. How to maintain the data in XML and JSON. So now in our core Android, we'll discuss these two topics. We'll discuss how to maintain the data in shared preferences and SQLite database. Okay. The first thing is nothing but shared preferences. Put here shared preferences. Okay. Just give me a minute. I'll come back.
Hello?
So next we'll discuss what? Shared preferences concept we'll discuss next. Okay. So let's see what exactly shared preferences. Shared preferences is one of the storage method in Android. Shared preferences is what? One of the storage method in Android. One of the storage method in Android which is used to maintain the data in a key comma value pairs. Shared preferences is what? Shared preferences is one of the storage method in Android. One of the storage method in Android which is used to maintain the data in a key comma value pairs. If you want to maintain the data, if you want to maintain key comma value pairs, then we use what? Shared preferences we use. Okay. Okay. Which is used to maintain the data in a key comma value pairs. So basically there is an interface called shared preferences. If you want to get this shared preferences object, if you want to get shared preferences is equals to get shared preferences is a method. Shared preferences is equals to what? Get shared preferences is a method to get the object for shared preferences. To get the object for what? Shared preferences. So first parameter we have to specify the name of the shared preferences. Second parameter we have to specify the mode of that particular shared preferences. Shared preferences name. Second parameter is what? Mode of the shared preferences. Get shared preference is a method. We have to specify the name of the shared preferences. Second parameter is the mode of that particular shared preferences. Okay. So we have to specify following are the possible parameters to specify mode. First thing is nothing but name, shared preferences name. Easily you can understand. You can give any name you can give. Second thing is nothing but mode of the shared preferences. Basically there are three possible parameters to specify the mode. So one is context.mode underscore private. Okay. Context.mode underscore private, context.mode underscore world underscore readable, context.mode underscore private, world underscore readable, and context.mode underscore world underscore writable. Context.mode underscore world underscore readable and world underscore writable. So these are the possible parameters. These are the possible parameters to specify the mode. Basically, if you specify private means the data is only specific to your application. Other applications cannot access. Readable means nothing but if you store any data in your application, even other applications also can access your application's data. If you specify as writable, other applications even they can read as well as they can write the data into your application, they can write. Now, maximum 99% we will get a requirement of providing this context underscore private. 99% will get a requirement of using what? Private views. Meaning the data is only specific to our application only. Other applications cannot access the data. Okay. So these are the possible parameters to specify the mode. And even the latest version, these two also deprecated. Already readable and writable also already deprecated. Okay. So now Android supports only what? Private only it will support. It will not support for writable and readable. It will not support. Only for what? Private will support. Okay. So meaning the data is only private to our application only. Okay. Next, by using above method, we can create shared preferences. We can create what? Shared preferences, and we can read the data from shared preferences. By using above method, We can create shared preferences, we can create, as well as we can read the data from shared preferences. To write the data into shared preferences, additionally we had to create an object for shared preferences dot editor. To write the data into shared preferences, additionally we had to create an object for shared preferences dot editor class object we had to create. Okay, so here we have to specify shared preferences dot editor is equals to spf dot edit is a method to write the data into shared preferences. Additionally, we had to create an object for shared preferences dot editor. Shared preferences dot editor is equals to spf dot edit is a method to get the object for shared preferences. To get the object for what? Shared preferences. If you want to write the data into shared preferences object dot put is a method. So we have to specify the key comma value. We have to specify what? The key comma value we have to specify. We have to specify the key comma value. And finally we had to call shared preferences editor dot commit is a method. Shared preferences dot edit. Shared preferences dot editor object dot put is a method. Meaning this x means nothing but data type here. X means nothing but what? Data type. You have to specify what type of data you are inserting. This x means nothing but what? Data type. We have to specify what type of data we are inserting. If you are inserting the string type of data, we have to specify put string. If you are inserting integer type of data, put int, put float, put boolean, put character. You have to specify what type of data you are inserting. Okay, this editor, by using this editor class object, we can insert the data we can insert. If you want to read the data, shared preferences object dot get is a method. Shared preference object dot get is a method. So second, here we have to specify the key we have to specify. Second parameter is a default value we have to specify. First parameter is a key, second parameter is what? Default value. Key, second parameter is what? Default value. Method is used to read the data from shared preferences. This logic is used to write the data into shared preferences, and this logic is used to read the data from shared preferences. Okay, if there is a value in shared preferences, if there is a value with the key, then we'll get the actual value. If there is a value with the key, whatever the key we specified, then we'll get the actual value we'll get. Otherwise, we'll get the default value. Otherwise, we'll get what? The default value we'll get. There is a value with the actual key, then we'll get the. There is a value with the key, then we'll get the actual value we'll get. Otherwise, we'll get the default value we'll get. That's it. Okay. So now we'll create a simple application. For demonstrating this. For demonstrating this shared preferences concept. Simple. I want to write the data and I want to read the data from shared preferences. That's it. I want to maintain some user details. I want to maintain, like, what is the username. So I want to read and write the data into shared preferences. So when user clicks the register button, my requirement is whenever user clicks the register button, my requirement is I want to store the data into shared preferences. I want to store the data. Whenever user clicks the register button, I want to store the data in shared preferences. I want to store the data. I want to store the data in where? In shared preferences. I want to store the data. Okay. And whenever user clicks the login button, my requirement is I want to check whether this data is available in the shared preferences or not. Here I want to write the data into shared preferences. And whenever user select the read button, login button, read the data from the shared preferences. This is a requirement. Whenever user clicks the login button, read the data from shared preferences. Okay. Let's create a project file. Specify the project name. Let's take my project name is. You can give any name. If you can give any name, you can give. SPF test is the project name I'm specifying. Take an empty activity. Next. Finish. So meaning here it will maintain the data in a key comma value. For every value we have to specify what? A key we have to specify for every value. Okay. A product is created. First, open the XML file. In this XML file, first we'll design the UI. Will design. Let's take here in place of a relative layout. Let's replace the UI group with linear layout. In place of the relative layout, let's replace the UI group with what? Linear layout. As usual, we don't require this tools attribute. We don't require all these attributes. We don't require. We require only the width and height. Okay, and here, so we have to specify the orientation. We have to specify. Orientation is equals to what? Vertical I specified. Orientation is equal to what? Vertical. So in this linear layout, so first we want to create that UI. We want to create edit text. Width is match parent and height is specified as wrap content. We have to specify. So we require this component. We require into Java code. Let's specify. I'm configuring it's let1 I specified. Let's configure a hint for this. Hint is equals to enter uname. Just for demonstration, we'll store few fields. We'll store into database. Shared preferences. We'll read that's it. And enter password. et2 is the ID. Next, after that, we'll create a button. We'll create. Create button will create and give it specify the text for this. Login. And we'll configure the click event. We'll configure for this. On click is equals to login. On click is equals to what? Login. Okay. Next, after that, we'll create a registration page. We'll create. Same thing. We'll copy the edit text components. We'll copy. R82. Designing a simple form I'm designing. Register. Okay. Let's see the design. So we create a simple login form we created. Then after that, in the below of only we created registration page also we created. Now the requirement is what, whenever user clicks the register button, I want to write this data I want to store this data into shared preferences. Whenever user clicks the register, I want to store the data into the shared preferences. Whenever user clicks the login button, I want to read the data from shared preferences. This logic I want to write now. So we already created two methods. Two buttons we already created. We had to create two methods. We had to create public void. One is login is one method, which is taking the view object as the input. And one more thing is registration is one more method. Register is another method. Login and register. So we had to get the data from these four edit text components. We had to get the data. One, 83 and 84. So now in the Oncreate method, we had to get these components. We had to get into Java code. We had to get. Login 81. Hey, 1 second. Login 81, login 82. Here you can get any name you can give, but it should be better if both variables are same. R83 and R84. Okay. Yeah. So login edit text one okay. So directly I'll write the logic here. Whenever user clicks the login, first we'll write the registration logic. We'll write. Whenever user clicks the register button, our requirement is we had to get the data from these text boxes. We had to get the data, and we had to write the data into what? Into shared preferences. We had to write the data. We had to get the data from these components. We had to get, and we had to write the data into what? Into shared preferences. We had to write the data. Okay. So for this, what we had to do is globally we had to create an object for shared preferences class. We had to create an object. Globally, we had to create an object for what? Shared preferences class object we had to create globally. Okay, so let's initialize this shared preferences object in the Oncreate method. In the Oncreate method, let's initialize the shared preferences object. Initialize the shared preferences object by using get shared preferences is a method. This method is used for both, meaning for creating a shared preferences as well as for reading the data from shared preferences. This method is used for both, for creating the shared preferences as well as for reading the data from shared preferences. First parameter, we had to give the name of the shared preferences. We had to give. You can give any name you can give. I'm giving the name as my PRFS is a name I given. What is the name of the shared preference I specified? My PRFS is a name I specified for the shared preferences. So first parameter, comma. Second parameter, we had to specify the mode of the shared preferences. So we had to specify the mode as context to dot. So you can find lot of parameters you can find here. So here we had to specify as mode underscore private, meaning the data is only specific to our application, only other applications cannot access. Okay. So we create a shared preferences with this name. Whatever you created, if there is no shared preferences, it's going to create a shared preferences. The shared preferences is already available. It's going to get the data from that particular shared preferences. Okay. Now first we'll write the logic for register. Whenever user clicks the register button, I want to write the data into shared preferences. But we create an object for shared preferences object we created. This object is used for creating the shared preferences as well as reading the data from shared preferences. Creating the shared preferences and read the data from the shared preferences. but it will not. But you cannot write the data into shared preferences. You cannot write the data into shared preferences. You cannot write the data. For writing the data into shared preferences, so we had to create an object for shared preferences dot editor class. We had to create an object. We had to create the object for what? Shared preferences dot editor class object. We had to create. Shared preferences dot editor is equals to spf dot edit is a method. Shared preferences dot editor is equals to shared preferences object dot edit is a method. Edit is a method to get the object for what? To get the object for shared preferences dot editor. To get the object for shared preferences dot editor. Now in this shared preferences editor object, insert the data by using a method called put, and you have to specify what type of data you are inserting. You are inserting string or float or boolean or what type of data you are inserting. You have to specify here. Now I'm inserting the string type of data. Let's specify string. Which values are inserting? Username, password, mobile number, and mail ID. Right? Let's specify here. First thing I'm inserting username. I'm inserting specify uname. But second parameter you have to specify the value, right? From where you are getting the value. In the XML file, we created 6 edit text components we created in the XML. We created 6 edit text components we created in XML. We had to get those 6 edit text components we had to get into Java code we had to get. Meaning after this set content view method, we had to get those components we had to get into activity we had to get. That is let1 is equals to edit text of find view by id of r.id.let1. let2. So get the data from these text boxes. Okay. Whatever we created in the XML file, just we got those components we got into Java code we got. Okay. Next, whenever user clicks the register button, we specified a key we specified, and what is the value? Value we'll get from the text box. We'll get the value ret1 dot get text dot toString. Okay. So like this, we have to insert the other parameters we have to specify. And finally, we had to call shared preferences editor dot commit is a method. Finally, we had to call what? Shared preferences editor dot commit is a method. So we had to specify what is the keys: username, password, mobile number, and email. Username, password, mobile number, and email. Okay. We are getting the data from edit text 1 component, edit text 2, 3, and 4. Okay, dot commit. And we inserted the data into shared preferences. We inserted the data by using this logic. We return the data into shared preferences. We return the data. Okay. When user clicks the login button, it's going to call this method. It is going to call this login method. It's going to call. In this login method, let's write the logic. What is the logic you wants to perform? Write the logic. What are the logic you wants to perform? See here, we return the logic to write the data into shared preferences. Next, we want to read the data from shared preferences here. See, it's mandated. We have to call the commit method. After writing the data, call the commit method. Then only it's going to write the data into shared preferences. Otherwise, it will not write the data into shared preferences. When user clicks the login button, I want to read the data from shared preferences. I want to read the data. Okay, so I want to get two parameters. I want to get string name is equals to shared preferences object dot get string is the method. Get string is the method. So we have to specify the name key. We have to specify what is the key we specified. Uname is the key we specified, meaning we want to get the value from the shared preferences. Here we are retrieving the value from shared preferences, comma. Second parameter is the default value, meaning if there is no value with this key, it's going to return the default value. It's going to return. Okay, basically in the real-time development, these reading and writing may be in different screens in your project. Just for demonstrating the reading and writing logic, I'm writing the logic in the same screen. I'm writing the logic. Okay. So get string we had to give a key we had to give, and second parameter is a default value. So we specified the default value as no value we specified. We specified the default value as what? No value we specified. So we are getting the name we are getting, and next we had to get the password we had to get. From the shared preferences we had to get what? Password we had to get. Password and the default value. Pass. So here we are getting the name we are getting and password we are getting. Now we have to compare these values, meaning whatever the data we received from shared preferences. What are the data we received from shared preferences? These values we had to compare. We had to check if these values are available with the user given values or not. User is going to give the values in these text boxes. Okay, let's write the logic here. If let1 dot get text dot toString, meaning I'm getting the data from the user. I'm getting the data. I'm getting from the user. I'm getting the data. let1 dot get text dot toString dot equals ignore case, meaning if this value is equals with the name whatever you given, the value from the edit text 1 component, if this value is equals with the name whatever user is given in the text box, and double ampersand let2 dot get text dot toString dot equals ignore case of password. Okay, if user given value is available in the shared if user given value is available in the shared preferences, and if user given password is available in the shared preferences, meaning if this condition is true, meaning we are comparing here. Once I'll explain the logic. User given value let1 dot text box user given value is equals with the value which is available in the shared preferences, and user given password is available in the shared preferences. If this condition is true, we'll display the data will display in a toast message. Toast.makeText get application context. Second parameter specify the message here. Second parameter is what? Specify the message. What is the message you want to display? I want to display a message success. I'm giving a message as what? Success. Length underscore long dot show is a method. Else, if user given values is available in the shared preferences, we are displaying a toast message called success is a message we are displaying. Else, simply we'll display a toast message that is invalid user. That's it. If user given value is already available in the shared preferences, we are displaying as success. Otherwise, if user given value is not available in the shared preferences, we are showing a message as what? Invalid user is the message we are showing. That's it. Okay. Let's run the application and see whether it is writing and are we able to read the data from shared preferences or not. Let's run the app. So it's installing the app. We'll wait for a few minutes. See, now the app is installed. Now the app is installed. So we had to specify the details. We had to specify what is the name, I specified, password I specified, what is the mobile number, and what is the mail ID. Click on this register button. It will store the data into the shared preferences. It will store the data. Click on the register button. It will write the data into shared preferences. Of course, we have not displayed any message here, but internally it's going to write the data in shared preferences. And whenever is it, again username again, and let's give the password. And whenever user clicks the login button, we are reading the data from shared preferences, and we are comparing this data is available in the shared preferences or not. Click on this login button. See, we got success. We got, meaning whatever the data we inserted, this data is available in the shared preferences. If you give some wrong credentials, if you give here, and if you click on the login button, you will get invalid user. You will get, because the data is not available in the shared preferences. Okay, this is how to write the data into shared preferences. This is a code we written, which is used to write the data into shared preferences. And if you want to read the data from shared preferences, use the shared preferences object to read the data from shared preferences. This code to write and this code to read the data from shared preferences. Any queries in this? I mean, the shared preferences concept. We'll discuss that one in the tomorrow's class. I'll explain you what is what are the drawbacks in the shared preferences, okay, and why we had to why we had to choose the second one. What is the next database? SQLite database. In that one only, I'll explain you where we had to, meaning where the Android is preferred to use the shared preferences and where the Android is preferred to use the SQLite database. Okay, so tomorrow you'll get an idea. In which cases you will get